welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, your portal to the future of business where innovation reigns and possibilities are limitless. I'm your host Maheen, and today we embark on a journey beyond the ordinary. We delve into the world of small businesses where resilience meets reinvention and entrepreneurs are the architects of tomorrow. Buckle up because this is no ordinary podcast where we are here to explore, to disrupt, and to celebrate the relentless spirit of small business pioneers. Today we have Logan Alexander Wolfe with us to make this podcast more enlightening. Logan Alexander Wolfe, a distinguished Austrian-Canadian tech entrepreneur, stands at the intersection of innovation and cybersecurity. With 2 successful startup exits under his belt and a decade-long career in the realm of digital fortification, Logan is a force to be reckoned with. Currently, he spearheads ORNA, crowned the 2022 Canadian Startup of the Year, alongside his co-founders Yana and Martin. Simultaneously, he weaves the fabric of his upcoming book, The 1.28% Startup. Logan's expertise extends to chairing strategic board and advisory committees at several educational and financial institutions. Now let's delve into the fascinating world of entrepreneurship, cybersecurity, and the future of technology with Logan Alexander Wolfe. Hi, Logan. On behalf of Canadian SME, I'd like to welcome you to our Small Business Podcast. How are you today?
Hi, I'm fantastic. It's a pleasure to be here.
Very pleased to have you with us this afternoon. Now, Logan, you've had a remarkable success as an entrepreneur with 2 startup exits. Can you share some of the highs and lows of your entrepreneurial journey and what keeps you motivated in this ever-evolving landscape?
That's a terrific question. Thank you. So the entire entrepreneurship journey is all highs and lows. Sometimes between, the span of a few hours, you can pretty much go from being on top of the mountain, metaphorically speaking, to pretty much being in a state of desperation. Entrepreneurs are usually motivated by bringing a certain vision to life, right? So needless to say, embarking on that adventure gives them unprecedented freedom, usually control over their company, especially before, let's say, bringing on external venture capital money in this case. So we usually go into that, but the risk and reward calculation is completely skewed when you compare it to, let's say, full-time employment, right? Because ultimately, yes, the upsides are tremendous, but then for a lot of these entrepreneurs, myself included, with a lot of my companies, everything is at stake. That could be reputation, financial, let's say present and future, right? And a lot of very successful entrepreneurs that exited their companies, or let's say they're CEO of a public organization that have put everything on the line. I personally know a gentleman who has taken out 3 mortgages on his house to fund his company early on, but now it's a multi-billion-dollar organization. So those are some of the highs. And in terms of the lows, again, like everything is at stake, right? So it can be a very lonely kind of a place. I think a lot of folks these days, especially go into entrepreneurships, starting tech companies, let's say, based on the image that media has cultivated. Right. So we're talking like, movies about Mark Zuckerberg and what have you, like Apple. Right. And they don't really all that much go into the challenges and the struggles. And also they don't really focus on how unusual this type of journey it is. Right. So a lot of young kids, especially, I think these days, they think, oh, I'm going to start a tech company. And they have visions of, buying Teslas and living in penthouses and traveling the world. And for a very small portion of them, that is true. But for a much larger portion of entrepreneurs, it's a hustle, it's a grueling journey, every single day for years until they get to that stage and get some recognition and success.
Oh, it's beautiful how you just portrayed your highs and lows into just a summary of, what you've experienced. Now, Logan, ORNA, the 2022 Canadian Startup of the Year, has made waves in cybersecurity sector. What inspired you and your co-founders to create ORNA, and how does it simplify cybersecurity for small businesses?
It was a deep, I'm going to say, frustration with the sense of frustration with the status quo in the small business kind of and medium-sized business cybersecurity market. Because, I've been a cybersecurity consultant for a while. I work with McKinsey and Deloitte and EY and all the big firms. You just notice that the market is completely lopsided towards, let's say, large organizations, large enterprises. So essentially you have, big industry players like CrowdStrike, right? Palo Alto and what have you, that tend to pursue also large customers. You got higher, annual contract value or ACV. You get higher lifetime value of the customer, and ultimately, it just makes more financial sense to them, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the perhaps unintended effect on their product suite because of that is that products are very siloed. They do one specific thing very well in a lot of cases, right? I'm not going to, hate on CrowdStrike.
Right.
They're a fantastic company. And at the same time, they're very complex with a high learning curve. And as you guessed it, they're very expensive in a lot of cases. So, but then you look at small and mid-sized businesses, it's so tough these days for them to build a coherent 24/7 cybersecurity practice that most of them have either give up altogether or they just kind of do the bare minimum, right? And that creates a very attractive target for cybercrime organizations. So if you look at the North American data breach landscape, about 70% of these breaches are coming from small and medium-sized businesses. So that's very frustrating to me as a cybersecurity professional, and I think that's a real crisis. So what we've built is essentially an automated security operations center platform, sort of in a box, that simplifies this and centralize. The purpose of it is really just kind of bring the entire toolkit together in a single automated solution.
Okay.
And automate the entire cybersecurity suite of needs for a small business. That's from threat detection to automated response to incident response, right? A to Z to compliance to vulnerability management, all in a single solution. Yeah. So, and I think that's why it's so popular. Sort of in closing, we have 200 plus organizations in 11 countries using ORNA at this point.
Wow.
And we've launched last year, right? And the feedback has just been tremendous. And I think we really hit the spot here with the solution.
I'm sure it did.
Yeah, we have a free sign up actually, and we have a free version on our website. So I highly encourage any listener to give it a shot.
Absolutely. We love the inspiration behind, the creation or the inception of ORNA, first of all. And you're right. The state of cybersecurity is a very pressing issue, not only in Canada, but I think globally now. Logan, how do you see Canada's cybersecurity landscape differing from other regions, and what challenges and opportunities does it present?
That's a terrific question again. So for all intents and purposes, when it comes to cybersecurity, we are an emergent market. Right, and here's why. Canada's relatively soft foreign policy stance in the past, decade or decades, let's say, has sort of lulled us into a false sense of security. Essentially, we weren't on a lot of other countries and perhaps hostile countries' radar as a target. But this has changed in as of late, let's say, right, because our geographic and ideological and geopolitical proximity to the United States, for example, which is quite active out there, let me just leave it at that, is making us a very attractive target. But at the same time, the regulatory landscape, the government and even the defense budget, right, and especially, budgets and interest in cybersecurity within businesses in Canada did not yet catch up with that realization, right? So as a result, we're seeing a massive increase in attacks and breaches just across the board, regardless of the industry sector or business size lately. And it does create a tremendous opportunity for Canadian and also foreign cybersecurity companies to, get Canadian cybersecurity and the state of it up to that level to properly respond to that threat, right? Because if you look at any, I'm going to say traditional geopolitical threat actors, and that would be Russia, China, Iran, countries like that, North Korea, right? We share a lot of the infrastructure, for instance, with the United States. And yet Canada is substantially less defended, right? So in a lot of cases, they use Canada as essentially a jumping board or as a practice range. And then they sort of hop and implement these learnings to North American companies and US companies. And that's a real danger.
It is. But Logan, you have a wealth of knowledge on cybersecurity, as we can tell from our conversation. And something I tapped into in the very beginning while introducing you was that you're an author as well. And your upcoming book, The 1.28% Startup, sounds very intriguing. Could you provide a glimpse into what readers can expect and how it can inspire budding entrepreneurs on their journey?
Actually, that's exactly the target of the book. It's a second book in a 3-book series, and I'm just going to call it the entrepreneurship series, if you will. I think that's an apt description. So the first book in the series, called Iconic by Design, was out now for a couple of years, and it focuses on just building an iconic product. And I've spoke to a lot of folks in prominent companies that have done so. And some of these names wouldn't surprise you. So that would be, Apple, Porsche, LVMH, Lincoln Motor Company. So a lot of them have created iconic products or did some kind of like 180 type pivot in their business journey to save the company from bankruptcy. Every single one of these organizations was on the brink of bankruptcy, and now they're iconic.
Right.
So what gives, right? So we explore these lessons in that book, and we apply them to building iconic products and experiences for customers. Right. And that's something that ORNA, for instance, is known for. We've won numerous user experience awards. So very practical application there. So then the second book, the 1.28% startup, and I know the name doesn't roll off the tongue, but that is the percentage of startups that on average become unicorns. That is to say, $1 billion valuation. All about go-to-market, right? I think one of the most common fallacies, especially within first-time entrepreneurs, is that kind of build it and they will come mentality. Absolutely not the case in 2023. Way too much noise out there. In fact, I know quite a bit more companies with a subpar product, but a stellar go-to-market strategy that are successful than vice versa. So it's all going to be about go-to-market, how to find your ideal customer profile, how to reach them, how to, differentiate yourself from the competition, how to define your value proposition, and so on. And then the third book is going to be called The First Millionaire in Your Family. And that's going to focus on wealth and financial management.
When is that coming out?
That's a good question. I'm going to say like early 25.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, it will be validated for sure.
I'll do my best.
Aww.
It's daunting, writing books.
Writing books. But you're knowledgeable. We love that. Now, Logan, reflecting on your cybersecurity experiences, could you share a memorable anecdote or a story that highlights the importance of holistic cyber risk mitigation, a cornerstone of ORNA's approach?
Yes, in fact, actually something does come to mind. So right before ORNA, so I was running a cybersecurity consultancy back then called Wembley Partners. And we had this one, so obviously I can't mention any company names, but we had this one engagement where basically we helped the company respond to a ransomware threat. Right. But then the plot thickened substantially as we worked on it because, long story short, it turned out that the company's IT director of 14 years has collaborated with a cybercrime group, a pretty large one. We call them APTs, or Advanced Persistent Threat, means they're sponsored by a state government, in this case, Russian government, to extort his own company, right? And his goal was twofold. One, to get a really nice payday, and two, to discourage the company from a very specific IT vendor selection and instead stick to choosing a vendor that was owned by a friend of his, essentially. And I mean, the thing was, the engagement was like a crime novel. I mean, RCMP got involved. It was a whole thing, right? But what was jarring for me in that one is that nobody expected this. Nobody saw this coming. The guy was with the business for over a decade. How do you know, right? And it really highlighted the need for, again, a paradigm shifting approach to cybersecurity, right? Because it's not just the technical threats. That's the common misconception. Oh, yeah, it's a malware attack. But no, there are insider threats, intentional and unintentional. There are, there's this corporate espionage, right? Like there are all kind of factors that a lot of companies don't even consider. And that is exactly what sort of gave us the idea for ORNA and to kind of bring and centralize it together in a single solution.
Very resourceful. Now, Logan, emerging technologies are shaping the next decade, right? On a final note, what trends do you foresee and how will they impact society and businesses today? And are there any specific areas that entrepreneurs should focus on how to stay ahead of the curve?
So this is a terrifying but also exciting time to be alive, I'm going to say, perhaps for obvious reasons. But some of the, I think, emerging technologies that are on the top of my list of disruptive technologies. So that would be, first of all, quantum computing. When it's going to become commercially available, that's going to disrupt any industry vertical that requires computational resources, which is just about any. I mean, we're talking medical research, right? Stock markets, anything. I mean, space travel and whatnot. Cybersecurity is one of them. So a lot of our cryptographic protocols right now in the world are based on essentially highly complex mathematical calculations. And the premise is that it's going to take about 300 years or more for even a supercomputer to break that encryption and access the data. A quantum computer could break that encryption in less than 3 seconds. So you can imagine how that creates a big problem in the disruptive shift in cybersecurity. So for entrepreneurs, technologies like quantum cryptography are a great kind of starting point right now to capitalize on that. The second one I would say is biomedical engineering and genome editing, right? So that's, started with CRISPR. Now it's way beyond that. There's very promising research in regards to anything from, life extension to Alzheimer's disease treatment and prevention, and a whole host of genetic issues, right? Mm-hmm. So yes, high hopes for that, absolutely. Third one I'm going to say is perhaps asteroid mining, which is a very specific application of space tech, right? So now that we have reusable spaceships that are capable of both liftoff and then, safe regrounding, right? That makes it commercially feasible to mine, for example, our asteroid belt for, there's a variety of valuable resources there. And ultimately, that could also be, in some shape or form, an answer to the climate change question, right? Because we can move mining operations off planet. And last but not least, and perhaps in a very unsurprising twist, artificial intelligence.
Right.
But in closing, I'm going to say, so I'm not a fearmonger. I majored in AI and my minor was neuroscience, right? So there's an intersection there, absolutely. Some jobs will certainly, let's say, disappear. That is true. But for a vast majority of jobs, AI will eliminate some repetitive processes and kind of like the boring components of these jobs. So if anything, I believe that artificial intelligence will make existing jobs a lot more exciting, more creative, and more interesting for humans that are in them.
Absolutely. I think we all are early adopters in the realm of AI, and it will take us some time to really adopt fully into what's coming next. But Logan, your journey and your insights are truly inspiring, and your success with first the ORNA and your upcoming book, the 1.28% startup, it's remarkable. And we really appreciate your time and expertise today with us. And thank you so much for sharing with our audience all the right resources and tools that they can use to help scale their business.
It's a pleasure and it's an honor. Thank you.
Thank you. As we conclude this episode of the Small Business Podcast, we invite you to be a part of the revolution, to embrace the uncharted, and to support the visionaries shaping our world. Our journey continues hand in hand with our partners who share a passion for innovation. A heartfelt thank you to our exclusive banking partner, RBC, unwavering shipping partner, UPS, and our forward-thinking accounting software partner, Xero. In this realm of endless possibilities, we invite you to dream, to create, and to redefine the future of small businesses. Until we meet again, keep pushing boundaries and keep listening. This is your host, Maheen, the Small Business Podcast, signing off now.